Welcome to part 6 of Beater with a Heater. We're going to change the transmission fluid and filter. If you've been following along, I bought this car a little bit ago, and so far I put 15,000 miles on it. Car's a high mile car. I bought it with 368 grand, and now it has 382. Over the winter I wanted to change the transmission fluid, but when I looked underneath I noticed the bolts were really rusty, and I knew it was going to be a problem getting them off. So I just changed the fluid at that time and removed the 3 quarts or so that were in the pan and replaced that amount. Now the weather's nicer, so I'm going to tackle this task now and show you exactly how to change your transmission fluid and to change your transmission filter. Let's get started. The first thing I did was I got 4 quarts of transmission fluid and a filter from Rock Auto. Underneath the car, we're going to need to first remove the drain plug, as you can see right there. It's not going to be too hard of a thing to do. You're going to need a hex head socket, and the one that we used was a 3/8 inch. Once we break it loose, we'll unscrew it the rest of the way and let the transmission fluid drain from the pan. Now we're going to use a 10mm socket, wrench, and some other things to try to get these 18 bolts off. And some went very easy. The ones that are very rusted were a problem, and we had to get creative with that. Sometimes just having a socket or a wrench would help you turn it without having too much difficulty. But you'll see here, this one was stripped out. It wouldn't work with a 10mm, so I actually went to a 3/8 inch socket, and I'm gonna just hammer that on to pretty much destroy the bolt, just so I can get it off. And then what I'll do is I went to the junkyard and I got some replacement bolts in advance of this, so this way I had the right bolts and I'm good to go. But you can see, like, some of these spots here, it's very difficult to get around, like where the subframe is, so you just have to be patient and just think about what works for you and what's the easiest. There's a little lip that sticks out on the side of the oil pan, so it makes it a little bit of a challenge to get a solid bite on these bolts in some instances. I wasn't able to record it, but I pried down on the pan once all the bolts were loose. Once it's done dripping, we're going to remove the old filter and put the new one on. Well, I found a little bit of a problem here. I planned ahead and I ordered from Rock Auto. Apparently they sent me the wrong transmission filter. If you notice, the bolts are in the wrong place. There's 3 12mm bolts that hold the transmission filter onto the transmission itself. We're going to remove those, and I'm going to have to take a trip to the local auto parts store and get a proper transmission filter and gasket for this particular vehicle. You're going to hand screw in the bolts, and then we're going to torque them down to 39 inch-pounds. Now we're going to prepare the mating surface for the transmission pan. Make sure you wipe it down, make sure there's no residue there or any pieces of the old gasket. Make sure it's all nice, shiny, and clean so you have a good surface to mate it to. Now take a razor blade and scrape the remaining gasket off of the transmission pan. Take your time and be careful you don't cut yourself. It'll come off. But eventually, we want to see a nice clean surface that we can then wipe off and put the new gasket on. Okay, I wiped out everything on the inside so there's no debris or anything. Also, too, there are magnets, and you want to make sure the magnets don't have any metal or anything that it captured. So the inside of our pan is clean. We're going to put on the gasket, and I'm going to use the bolts that I have to go through the holes to kind of hold the gasket in place in preparation for us to put it up to mate against the bottom of the transmission. We have a new crush washer here for the drain plug. We're going to put that on as well, and we'll screw that in when we're done. Okay, just be careful going up here. Part of the transmission pan is by the subframe, so you kind of have to maneuver your way around, and just be careful so you don't knock any bolts out. Hand tighten these, get them started by hand, and we're going to crisscross until we have everything tightened down. You don't want to do it all in a row. Now everything is snug. We want to use a torque wrench and torque all the bolts on the pan to 39 inch-pounds. Make sure you alternate side to side in a crisscross pattern. And the final thing to seal it up is the drain plug. What we want to do is put that in, thread it first by hand, and then we're going to torque it down to 13 foot-pounds. Once everything is done there, we can go up top and we can add fluids. What I did is did an inventory of the amount of fluid that came out of it, so I knew exactly how much I needed to put in for starters. Now that we've added our transmission fluid, we're going to start the car and work the gear selector through all of the gears. We're going to put it in each gear for a few seconds at a time and then move on to the next one. And I'm going to do that twice, and then take a measurement on the dipstick. And see if we have to add any more. Well, once your fluid level is good on your dipstick and the temperature on your transmission is warm, you should be pretty much good from there. I hope that this helped. There were a couple of things I wanted to show you, but unfortunately the battery died on my recorder, so I wasn't able to get everything. But if this is of use to you, please share, like, and subscribe, and continue watching me on my journey of my 300 and some thousand mile beater. Thank you.